You're listening to Orlando Credit Union's On the Money. I'm your host, Kaylee Green, and today I'm joined by Orlando Credit Union's Lake Nona Location Branch Manager, Rob Houston. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Kaylee. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to talk to you today, and we're going to be talking about credit cards, which are so important. I mean, everyone has one,
Right.
You know, it's how you build that credit. But before we get into that, I want to hear a little bit about your background working in the financial industry, just for all of our listeners.
Okay. Yeah, my journey in the financial industry started about 23 years ago. I started at an entry-level position with a teller at a local financial institution here in Central Florida. I gradually progressed through many various different leadership roles where now I've been managing retail branch locations for the last 16 years.
And what do you love about working that portion of the credit union?
It's great because you get to help members or customers navigate through some financial life cycles, right? So I may be the first person they come in contact with on how to get a credit card, like the subject today, or how do I purchase a home? How do I build credit? So we see these people grow throughout their life cycle, and I'm kind of a little bit of a part of that, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Exactly. So as you mentioned, you know, everyone's coming in asking all these different questions about all these different financial services or offers that might be beneficial to them, and credit is so important, very important to have. What are the benefits of having a credit card in general? Because there is that skeptical aspect of, well, I don't want to put myself in debt, but it can actually be really beneficial.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up. It's a great question. And, you know, when you think about credit cards, most people have images of accumulating debt, high interest rate, how do I get out of this? But when managed responsibly, there's a lot of upside and a lot of benefits to owning a credit card. I mean, I think, you know, when you think about convenience itself, just having the ability to eliminate carrying cash, right? Having a quick, easy way to purchase items, whether it's in person or online. And then I think you kind of go into something that's really popular in the news today, digital fraud or fraud, unauthorized transactions. Well, Visa has a program with a zero liability, which basically eliminates any type of responsibility to the card user for any unauthorized transactions. So you have that peace of mind knowing that no matter if I'm making an online purchase or I'm purchasing in person, you know, if someone does capture my card information, you know, I have that built-in security through Visa that I'm not going to be responsible for these charges. Then it kind of goes into credit. You know, I think credit cards play an important piece to your credit mix that you have on your credit report. And when, like I said, when managed responsibly, you could actually help improve your credit score. Now, I always tell people as a caveat to that as well, is, you know, when managing it responsibly, you want to also make sure you're not carrying a lot of credit card debt, because that actually can have a negative effect onto your credit. And lastly, you know, I think when it comes to benefits, it looks like it's a consolidated area. You know, one place where you can go in and view your transactions, track your transactions, and also make sure that you're budgeting correctly for your monthly expenses.
Two things that you mentioned that I want to touch on. The first one is the security aspect. It's so important to make sure that, you know, we're monitoring our card to make sure that there are no spends on there that we did not authorize. What comes to my mind is when people put scammers in gas station pumps. You know, if you have a credit card, you can dispute that if there's an issue, where it might not necessarily be as easy of a process if you're maybe paying with a debit card, where they can just take the money right off of your card.
Yeah, and there's probably two pieces of that, and those are both great points. You know, I think when you're talking about fraudulent activity, why not tie up the bank's money, right? That's what I always say, right? Why take up the bank's money? You work really hard for your money, and then when you're using your debit card, that's your liquid assets. That's your savings that you're securing in there. And although those same protections will apply with your debit card, I still think, yeah, you know, while you're going through that process of completing the documentation and filing the disputes, you know, why tie up your own personal money when you could actually leverage the bank's money in your line of card and not interrupt any daily spending?
Exactly. And another thing that's really important when, using that credit card is to make sure that you're not spending more than you're making, which makes me think of you talking about you don't want to put yourself into that credit card debt. So making sure that, although you want to utilize that credit card because it's great for your credit score, but don't spend more than your income.
Yeah, don't spend more than your income. And kind of the rule of thumb when you're talking about credit is typically from a credit utilization standpoint, meaning you probably shouldn't use more than 35% of what your total limit is.
Okay.
You want to kind of maintain that. Anything 35% or less is going to have a positive impact onto your overall credit rating.
That's that sweet spot.
That's that sweet spot. Typically, when you start going higher, 50%, or you're getting close to being maxed out to your balance, that's when you're going to have a negative impact on your overall credit rating. So I would say, use your card. If you're budgeting correctly and you're using it responsibly, I would say pay your balances off every month. Credit cards do give you typically a 25-day grace period, which means that you can use the bank's money for 25 days interest-free as long as you're paying your balances out for each statement period.
That's really important to keep in mind. And of course, a lot of people might already be seasoned credit card users, or they might be applying for their first card. So no matter where you're at in your credit card journey, what are some of the key players that you want to look for in a card?
Yeah, credit cards, there's tons of credit cards out there. There's rewards credit cards, there's rewards credit cards, there's some that promote, lower interest rates. I think if I'm a new borrower coming into the market and I'm looking for a credit card, I really want to take a step back and do some research, right? What's important to me? Am I someone that's going to be carrying balances on my credit card to where maybe I should look at a lower interest rate so I'm not accumulating a lot of interest? Or am I one that's going to be coming in, I'm just going to use it for my everyday spending and budgeting. I want to take advantage of the rewards, and then every month I'm going to pay it off. There's a couple different things I would really kind of look at if I'm a new borrower coming into the market for credit cards, because there's really two different classifications. There's revolvers, meaning those folks that do their daily spend and their monthly spend and they pay it off each payment cycle. And then there's people that carry over balances, right? And if you are carrying over balances from month to month, obviously I would encourage you to rethink your budget so you can kind of tackle that debt sum. But if you are going to carry balances, you definitely want to tackle a card or research a card that carries maybe typically a lower interest rate.
So how does carrying over balances impact your spend? I feel like a lot of people who might be carrying over balances are doing that because they cannot necessarily afford to pay off that credit card in full. But a lot of times people reach that point where the minimum payment that they need to make each month is pushing it even.
It is, and if you are carrying over balances, somewhere down the line, you probably just want to pause and say, listen, let's re-examine what my budget looks like. Am I living within my means? And in many cases, those folks that are carrying balances maybe need to make some slight tweaks or adjustments in order to get down that balance. You definitely don't want to carry over anything, because as soon as you start carrying balances, that's when you start paying interest to the bank. So like you mentioned before too, if you're only making that minimum monthly payment, it will take quite some time to really pay it off.
Especially with that interest going back up, and then you feel like you're stuck in a hole almost.
Sure, you do. And that's really kind of what you always hear about in the news, right? I feel like I'm just burdened with all this debt and stuff like that. Well, yeah, you can feel that way, but or there's some things you can do personally from a budgeting standpoint. There are things you can eliminate to really pay a little bit more towards your monthly obligation to that credit card to really pay down that debt, and I think once you start doing that, then you'll start seeing that principal balance go down much quicker, and the relief you'll feel once you get it paid off is just tremendous.
So of course people who might be first time credit card users are looking at that and saying, oh, that sounds intimidating. So let's walk back a little bit toward that, looking at which credit card would make the most sense. Well, maybe for a first time credit card user, you want to look at a card that has 0%. in the first year maybe, so that you can learn how to navigate that. What do you recommend for a first-time credit card user? Of course, you mentioned that it all depends on where you are at personally and what you're already maybe paying, whether you have student loans or an auto financing option that you're paying off. So what does that look like?
0% options they're out there. They're always great. I think that's something to definitely research. Is that going to be the right fit for you? Obviously, those promotional rates do eventually disappear.
Yeah, and then you're stuck.
So I think it's all about financial education when it comes to credit cards. I think credit cards are just such a tremendous tool, and people use them for so many different ways now. In this digital age, but I think it still comes back to me. I'm a young person who's coming in, getting my first credit card. I want to make sure it makes sense, right? I'm going to do some research. Does this card have an annual fee? That's something that's important, because if it does have an annual fee, that's an additional expense that you're going to incur every single year, right? Just for using the card. What are the benefits of this card? Does it have a robust rewards package, which I may be interested in, because I plan to use this card for my daily spend, and I want to get rewarded for using using that card. And those are some things I would kind of look for.
And I think that especially rewards and the benefits that come from credit cards are so important if you are wanting to have a daily spend on a credit card, because that's, along with, of course, building your credit, that's what really makes it worth it,
Absolutely.
So I want to talk rates. Of course, I mentioned, there are those promotions where you have to pay a really low or maybe no rate, but there are constant changes happening there. So what's considered a generally good credit card rate? Is there a specific rate that we should be looking for?
I'm not sure if there's a specific rate altogether. I think it, again, goes back to personally how I'm leveraging my card and leveraging my usage of that particular card. I did mention previously that if you're using it responsibly, you do have a 25-day grace period to where you can make charges on your card without accumulating any interest at all, as long as you're paying your statement balance every single month. But credit cards itself are a little bit volatile, right? They're variable rate interest cards. They are tied to a prime rate, meaning that if the Fed comes in and raises or decreases prime, my rate can adjust. So for those folks that are carrying balances, if the Fed raises rates, that's more interest that you're paying every single month onto that. But it's going to go to credit rating is going to determine a lot of what interest rate you're going to get. I think the type of product that you're going to get, right? Those higher, more robust rewards cards typically come with a higher interest rates because the rewards on them are so much greater. So I would just kind of think about those different things when looking at the interest rate. If you are someone that tends to carry balances, though, again, I'd highly recommend to research credit cards that are going to be very competitive from an interest rate standpoint, so you can kind of eliminate some of that burden to yourself.
Exactly. And speaking on that, what does Orlando Credit Union offer in terms of rates?
Now we do have a product. We have a smart card, which is really designed and tailored for folks that maybe plan to carry a balance. It's probably one of the more aggressive interest rates within the market right now. It's as low as 10.75 right now. Obviously, it is a variable rate, so that can adjust. But as of today, is as low as 10.75. So, if you do have great credit rating and you plan to carry some balances, that could be a very attractive card for someone looking to carry some balances.
And as we mentioned, another benefit to using credit cards is the rewards aspect.
Sure.
So, what kind of rewards can members find within Orlando Credit Union credit card?
So we do. We've built a very robust rewards program here at the credit union. We have what we call a 3-2-1 card. So meaning that there's a reward structure of 3-2-1.
Yeah.
So right now, for the first 12 months, you can earn 4 points for every dollar spent on any Amazon or any PayPal transactions.
Which is huge.
Which is
so
huge
many
right
people
now.
use Amazon.
Oh, trust me. There's a package at my front door. It seems like every single day. So
Same.
I definitely use it a lot on that piece of it. And then there's you earn 3 points for every dollar spent on gas and travel, 2 points for every dollar spent on groceries and dining, and then 1 point for every dollar spent on any other transaction. So if you like to travel, if you leverage Amazon for a lot of your purchases or PayPal for a lot of your purchases, those reward points can really start to add up.
Especially with gas prices
Oh
right
my
now.
goodness, ridiculous. Oh yeah.
It'll really help.
Yes.
So as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that listeners should know about Orlando Credit Union credit cards?
Yeah, I think I think we did a really good job as an organization of really customizing cards for multiple different users out there. And again, it kind of goes back into, we created a card with a very aggressive, low interest rate for our market. So if you do have some balances right now, come see us at Orlando Credit Union. We could definitely help you out with that. Our card also features, no balance transfers, no annual fee. So those are additional savings that we're going to pass on to our members. For those folks that like to use their card for everything in their daily spend, again, we put together an extremely attractive rewards card where you can accumulate a lot of points, get rewarded for your spend, and again, as long as you're paying your balances off every single month, the interest is non-existent at that point.
Yep, it's a really great option.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rob.
You're welcome. It was such a nice time being here. Thank you so much, Kaylee.
Of course. And to learn more about Orlando Credit Union's credit card options, you can head to our website at orlandocreditunion.org. Until next time, we're investing in you. Orlando Credit Union is providing this podcast as a public service. The information provided is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of Orlando Credit Union policy. Reference to any specific product does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by the credit union. Views and opinions expressed by Orlando Credit Union employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the views of the credit union or any of its officers. Orlando Credit Union is not providing any financial, economic, legal, accounting, or tax advice or recommendations in this podcast.